Hello, and welcome back to Drawdology. So we've had a bit of a hiatus as my interest in Drawd went down, but I'm getting back into it, and I'm actually playing some new holds. So hopefully that means a bunch of new puzzles that I want to show off. So today we're in the Complex Complex, and this room actually has a little commentary on it. So let's listen real quick.
Goblins fascinate me. If you are willing to brave the awful taste of decoy potions, you might lead one almost anywhere, even to its own death.
Okay.
I know how to handle this. Goblins are stupid. They'll always attack the most recently placed decoy if they're the same distance away.
Okay, so let me briefly outline the elements we're working with in this room. This is a swordless token, pretty much, since I'm face as I move. When swordless, this just helps me position the decoys. It doesn't actually affect whether they have a sword. So decoys, when I touch a decoy potion, I get to place a decoy, and there's a square around it which shows the range in which it will attract monsters. If a monster is within range of a decoy, it will treat the decoy, for all intents and purposes, as though it is B-throw. All of its calculations will act as if the decoy is the monster's target instead of B-throw. Now the monster in particular we're working with today is the Goblin, which is a slightly complex monster in terms of movement. When you look at roaches or the like, they pretty much just go straight to you using kind of a dumb algorithm. What goblins actually do is they assign each square that they could move to a score. And the way they score is they calculate the actual straight line distance, not using the grids, but an actual straight line from that tile to you, or rather to its target, which is not necessarily the same thing. And the one with the highest score is the one that's closest to its target. The special exception is, obviously, the automatic highest score goes to the square that the target is on. And it gives the lowest possible score to a square, an empty square right next to your sword. So it will avoid the sword at all costs. So let's demonstrate. So if we place a decoy right there, the goblin will walk up to right in front of its sword and stop. Now decoys can't be killed by monsters. So if we put the sword facing the other way, then the goblin will walk up to it and it'll just stay there. Now what we actually have to do here, I probably should be capturing cursor, but I'll take care of that next time, whatever. We need to get the goblin to step on this pressure plate, which will lower this door and allow us to step on the conquer token, which is required for us to win the level. Then the goblin itself has to die by stepping on these hot tiles, which pretty much means the goal is just to get the goblin all the way to the right of its chamber. So pretty straightforward goal here. The one other element in this room that matters is these bombs. If you stab a bomb, it blows up. If a bomb is caught in another bomb's explosion, it also blows up. If our poor little goblin here is... That's too far away. If our poor little goblin here is stuck in the bomb's explosion, the goblin also dies a lot. Decoys also can be killed by bombs. So the goal here is to place decoys in such a way, we've got 4 of them, so as to lure the goblin over to the far right of the chamber. And this is kind of an interesting problem here, because of course you can't move decoys around once placed. So you have to find a combination of decoys such that the goblin will be manipulated so that it's not just pinned to a decoy. Once you have a goblin within 1 square of a decoy, it's very hard to get it to move away. So once you have this situation here, the goblin's kind of not going much of anywhere now. So if you want to think about this problem a little bit for a moment, you can go ahead and pause the video, and from here I'll start going to the solution. So the first thing you'll probably want to look at is the range, and you'll notice that you kind of have this spot here where you're right at the edge of the range, and this is where the bombs are. Not that blowing the bomb up right away does you much good, and you can place the decoys in these kind of little alcoves, and that can help you get the goblin moving while keeping your decoy far away from the goblin. Now, the other important thing to know about goblins is that when considering which sword to avoid, they only consider the sword of their target. So, for example, let me see if I can show this off. I keep forgetting the decoy range. If we place a decoy here, and then we place another decoy here, ordinarily a goblin wouldn't be very happy about standing here, because, in fact, this is actually a bad example because of the positioning. If we place a decoy here, and hopefully this won't do something I don't expect, which would be kind of funny. So normally, the goblin wouldn't like to be standing where it is right now, because it's right next to a sword, and it would be inclined to move to the lower right, away from the sword that it's near. And in fact, this is the only move it can make that is not right next to a sword, which is why I didn't want the rightmost decoy having its sword pointing east. And the reason it doesn't do that is because the decoy to the right is its target. The decoy to the left, its position isn't taken into consideration when the goblin is calculating its moves at all. Not the decoy and not its sword, which means it completely ignores that decoy entirely. It only cares about the sword of the decoy it's focusing on. And this kind of quirk can be taken advantage of. So the first thing we're going to do to make sure that everything goes as planned is we're going to place our final decoy first. When all is said and done, the goblin should be walking towards this decoy. The next decoy we want to place is right over here, and this will get the goblin moving in the direction we want. But we don't want the goblin to stop here. Now remember what I said about the goblin focusing on the sword of its target. Once it moves over this way, then it's going to start focusing on the decoy in the middle of the corridor, which means it's going to start moving around its sword. And so now you can see that that it's kind of moved around. And I think the goblin's movement preferences in the event of a tie are what drives it walking to the right of the decoy. But now that we're in this position, we can see, I think if we click on this, so it's within this decoy's range. All we have to do now is make sure that all the other decoys are out of there, and we have a means of doing that. And this is why I wanted to place the final decoy first. If there wasn't a decoy down right now, the goblin would start walking towards B-throw, and all of our efforts would pretty much go to waste. But since we've set everything up ahead of time, all we have to do is just watch the goblin walk right where we want, and that's the room. I really like this one because it's very compact, but it demonstrates some really core principles about how goblins work, which is really interesting to me. So hopefully I might find some other interesting rooms from the complex that I can show off later. So I hope to see you there.